Hi all and welcome back. This is Trucker Rob UK. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a few weeks now since I last posted some content, and I do have a number of episodes that I've already recorded but not edited together. There are a few reasons for that. One is that about 2 months ago, I think SES released the latest version of Euro Truck Simulator 2, and Pro Mods typically takes maybe a few weeks for them to test their new version of their maps with the new version of Euro Truck Sim. And I think looking at their website, there's a post on the front of their website at promods.net where they mention, first of all, there's an apology for the delay, explaining that a number of their developers, I think, were away. And the latest update mentions that, I think, due to a combination of people being away and the time of release by SES of the latest version of the game, meant that the community was getting quite impatient. I think we all want to be able to get our hands on both in the latest version of the game and the latest version of the maps. So what they've done now is they've released the maps so it will run with the latest version of the game. However, due to the time needed for testing and beta testing, they've decided not to release all the latest and greatest content, and from what I've read, there's quite a lot there, so that's a shame. But you know, there's not really much I can say about that. It's hard work being a developer. So you'll see that I'm still on 1.54.1, and I will be updating very soon, probably later on today, to the latest version of Euro Truck Simulator 2, and then downloading the new maps. So I think what I will do is I will skip the episodes that I've already recorded and we'll go straight on to the new version, because there are some nice things in there that I would like to explore. Okay, so getting on to something else. About a month ago, and I'll keep this fairly brief, I had a D4 medical, and that was with D4 Drivers, a company based here in the UK, and it was carried out at a local hotel on a Saturday, which was great. Really easy to get to and a really simple process. Only lasted maybe 10-15 minutes. I'll put a link to their website in the description just in case anyone else wants to look at it. I also then filled in my D2 form and sent both of those off to the DVLA, and I now have provisional entitlement on my driving license to drive C+E vehicles, which is an articulated lorry and trailer, or truck and trailer, tractor unit. Then last week I had two things happened. I passed my theory tests, which is a multiple choice of 100 questions on large goods vehicles, and also an extended hazard perception test, and passed those two. And then later last week I had a 1 hour driving assessment with a local school, driving school, and that went pretty well as well. So the result of that is that I will be starting my actual on-road driver training in the very near future. And I'm not sure what I will do. I certainly won't be videoing any of that training. I think it's better, it's fairer certainly on the training company and on myself to make sure that I am 100% focused on that training and that all my attention is diverted to making sure that I'm driving properly and that I pass the tests. So regarding the channel, I'm not sure whether I will start posting real stuff, real drives on this channel, or whether I will start a sister channel for that, but that's something that may come up in the near future. But one thing that did come out of that driver assessment at the very end, and I hadn't mentioned anything at all about Euro Truck Simulator 2 and the amount of time that I've been playing and driving in it, which is since release in 2012. My instructor suggested, because the first thing I will be doing is a lot of reversing and preparing for the Part 3A test, which is a reversing test, would be to, well, first of all, he asked if I had a PC, a computer, and whether I'd heard of the game, which I then admitted yes, I have, and he suggested that I reverse and reverse and reverse and keep practicing. So this episode won't be numbered. It will follow on from, I think it's episode 22, it's the last one that was posted, where I stopped back at my base in Norway, and I will now run through some of the reversing tests and you can watch along. And then the next full episode that I'll post will be on the latest version of the game and the latest version of the maps from ProMod. So let's get going. Right, we shall start with the very first. Even though I've done all these, it's still good practice. Well, that was a fail. Went too far. But I think, as I was advised, small inputs. Okay, that was a lot better, and I did take a few shunts there, which is to pull forward to recorrect and reposition, get myself into a straight line or straighter line. And on the actual test that is kind of represented in one of the upcoming scenarios, you are allowed 2 shunts forward in that maneuver. So okay, the next one then will be reversing into a turn. That's fairly simple. It isn't a very tight working area. There's plenty of room. It's just figuring out when to make that turn to get into this box. going to overshoot that. We'll try that again. Okay, I did it. Let's just have a quick look at the replay. Let's pause it there a second, because I think you can see I'm aiming, but if I play, I will overshoot, or at least the trailer will try to go in sooner than I want. Okay, so now I'm starting to turn, but there was another problem. The problem being is that I'm not following the trailer in enough, so it will go in, but if I hadn't started to really correct, I would have jackknifed, and also I was in that situation where I'm still off and had to correct. So we'll do it again. Okay, that one was a bit better. I did have to do a shunt just to straighten back up. I think the difficulty at this point was not being able to see on the blind side on this side, and then obviously because I had quite a bit of turn there on the trailer. You know, if I just kept reversing straight, that would jackknife. That by the time I was correcting it, I was going to overshoot and hit that barrier there. So I did the sensible thing, which is to take a shunt forward, straighten up, and then just correct my position. and in. Okay, next one then is going to be to reverse park in a much tighter parking lot, and this one is going to be familiar to those that will be pulling into service station areas and parking up. So it's definitely a really good skill to have. Take a quick look outside. Yeah, I might hit that. So I turned a bit too late. When I started to turn, let's just have a look at where the back of the truck was. So it was there. I think perhaps if I was just a little further forward, so by the time I reached here and I started to steer in, I might have made it. And I started correcting perhaps just a bit too soon. I think if I'd kept the lock on, or the steering wheel straightened out whilst I was still turning the trailer, then it may have made it. Yeah. And that's where I hit it. So we'll do it again. that one was a lot better. So let's just have a very quick look to see where the rear of the trailer was when I started my turn. And I think when I was halfway or partway towards the space, I thought, yeah, I'm turning maybe a bit too steep, a bit too hard. So I was at this point. So I was on a decent curve, but I think I knew that if I didn't start chasing back after the trailer, then obviously the swing on it would increase and it would hit this lorry here. So once I corrected that, I was able to get it to turn more sharply, and I was pretty confident that I was missing this side, the blind side, although it's a bit close. And I think the other thing that I've learned is it's not a race, it's not a competition to get it in one go, and there's absolutely nothing wrong in taking a shunt forward just to correct. And in. Okay, the next one is actually very similar to the part, I think it's part 3A of the actual DVLA driving test, where you start in a box and you move forward past a B cone, and then you have to reverse on the other side of that cone and into the space next to where you started, and you're allowed 2 shunts forward to get your parking right, and you're also allowed to get out of the cab once when you're in the spot to check that you're in the right position, so you can make one further adjustment. either forwards or back. Hopefully not forwards, because that would mean that you've actually hit the barrier at the end. So this one is more difficult. Okay, in the actual test, where the yellow lines are there, at the end there would be a barrier that's sticking up, and there's like a black box and a hatched area, and you need to get the back into that. So that's the one thing that this test doesn't allow for. It just wants you in that green box. But, you know, it's a good start. And also this one doesn't have a cone. So in the actual test, there's a cone near that, a bit further back, I think, from the sort of the dotted line, the broken line there. So that's the one that you will pass on the right hand side, and then you need to reverse the trailer around it. But yeah, that's not bad. So I think that's where we'll leave it for now. Again, this isn't a normal format episode, and fingers crossed in a few days I'll find out whether I actually pass this test. So I'm currently in the process of downloading ProMods 1.55, and then the next content that I'll upload will be on the latest versions. So this is Trucker Rob UK. Many thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye.